Welcome back to Bull Tales. This is the episode you've all been waiting for. I'm Lee White. I'm joined by both our previous Dubbo guests in Andrew Quirk from Pinnacle Pole Herefords and Tim Reed from JTR Cattle Company. Gentlemen, welcome back to Bull Tales and congratulations on what was an absolutely outstanding day for both of you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Lee. Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, fantastic to be here, and what a day it was.
It really was. Now, when I invited you both individually in your preview episodes, you both had high expectations, but I don't think any of us predicted just how well both of you perform. Tim, let's start with you. Grand Champion Bull, equal top price at 20,000. How did the day feel?
Yeah, mate, it was unreal to go out there, take 3 bulls to Dubbo and turn up at Dubbo and have a look at the quality of the bulls that were actually there. It was really strong. I think it's probably one of the stronger lineups and of quality bulls Dubbo's seen in the last couple of years. And to be able to go out and have, 2 champions and then grand champion was just something you'd never dream about. It was, unreal. The only thing that would have made it better is if Gemma was there to spend it with us. But I know she was at home very excited and emotional watching the live stream. Fortunately, we got the ribbons and come home and, got them all sold and come home, pretty happy people.
Yeah, perfect. And Andrew, junior champion at your second Dubbo, 10,000 for lot 4. You mentioned in episode 1 that you were pretty excited about him and he was your lead bull. Your instincts were pretty spot on.
Yeah, we thought a lot of Midnight and thought, he had a fair bit of weight about him for his age and thought we had him pretty right, and his structure and length and depth, I suppose, held him in good stead. We had to pull lot 2, but yeah, we had a pretty good day. We sold lot 1 after the sale, and to come away with junior champion was something that, I don't know, it very, very fortunate early in the studs, basically infancy, to come away from Dubbo with a junior championship and 10 grand for a bull for a little known starter was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got to be honest with both of you and our listeners. While you two probably had days to remember, I'm sitting back here reflecting and feeling a bit flat about Landillo's results. We did get reserve senior champion and second in President's Shield, but it probably wasn't quite the day I was hoping for, to be honest. Right, well, what we're going to do, we'll just break down the whole day. We'll start with Tim. Let's just go through your 3 bulls. We know that you got your 2 champions, but what they got and where they went as well, if you can.
Yeah, look, the U055 bull, the Metcalf son, we were pretty stoked that him to win his class, then to go on to intermediate champion was a really real honour, I thought he might have been a little bit of the sleeper in the shed. That bull's come a long way since a lot of people have seen him back at Sydney. And U33 bull we've always loved and spoke highly of. And I think there's a lot of similarities between them 2 bulls. And, we went out for grand champion and I wasn't going to be surprised if U33 got beat by one of the bulls that was out there. It was a great lineup in that grand champion lineup. It's U55. He ended up selling to the Croker family along Herefords. We got talking to Sam and Daniel after they brought them, and I'm pretty good friends with Sam and Daniel, and they'd kept it pretty quiet that they'd sort of liked this bull for a fair while now, and have been following him through his progress, and we're pretty keen to get there and get him brought. So we really appreciate them guys. He made 8,000. I like to say they got a cheap bull, but hey, they got a bull and he was on the open market and that's what he made, so that's what he's worth. But I think he's going to do a really, really good job for them in their program moving forward. And then, the U33 bull, we had some big hopes for and won senior and went on to win grand. And, Kelly Runza just kept talking about how complete he was and that he was just a complete package for us. And I really appreciated the comments that Kelly made about all our bulls. He sold down to Taronga down in Victoria there, and we're really grateful for Bill. He had been ringing me a little bit and asking a few questions, and he was talking about being opportunistic and jumping on him. He'd sort of followed the bull on our Facebook and really liked the bull all the way through since we sort of putting him up on Facebook. And fortunate enough, he was able to secure him there and got him for 20,000, which eagle top price, which we're really grateful for, and then our big fella, Big Chip, U14, stood fourth in his class in the last senior class, the class which Lee, your bull, won. He was kind of big. Kelly sort of thought he was probably a bit out there for him on the bigger scale, but he sold to a repeat buyer, just a local commercial guy there just out of Dubbo. So, yeah, we're really grateful that they've come back and supported our program again. And, yeah, they're going to sell 3 bulls in, some harder bull selling seasons. Really to get 100% clearance again. That's a couple of years in a row now at Dubbo that we've had 100% clearance, and we average tick under 12 grand there. So we're really stoked with our results.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good day for you guys. And I said in the first episode that I thought it was your best lineup of bulls that you've probably put together, and I think it was a real credit to you, the way they looked while they were in the shed. I honestly couldn't believe how much the Medcar fella had done from Sydney show. He'd just come on and caught up, and in my personal opinion, had gone around the other bull. I think, Kelly found your 2 bulls as intermediate and senior, but I would have had no drama. I actually did wonder with my tinfoil hat conspiracy whether you put young Toby Hutchinson on the lead so that you can make sure you get outstick him and get the right bull up for Gemma and make her happy, because I honestly thought if you had Scotty Myers or someone there jump on that other bull, they may have, I think the results may have been the other way, to be honest.
Yeah, no, look, young Toby, he's done a lot of work for us and he's come a long way and he deserved to be out there. He found it an honour to be out there and to do something pretty special like that. His first Dubbo coming to work for us, and I'll put him on the end of the good ones any day of the week. The young fella does a really good job and it's credit to him. And I honestly thought he might have got around me. It was one of those things, do I swap what my prediction was and do I swap and jump onto the other bull? But no, I just kept it the way it was, and Toby's done a lot of work with that bull. Whenever, if I'm not leading him or Gemma's not leading, he's the one that's always led him. So that's why he was on him.
Yeah, no, he definitely did a good job. I'm not saying that. I just thought
No.
maybe you were just making sure you got the job done with the bull that with Gemma's favourite from home.
I was going to say, Tim, watching the Grand Champion out in the ring, he definitely was impressive. And I saw Unleashed U33 down at your place in January. I visited. And, yeah, back then you could tell the bull had presence. He had balance, and he was a real sirey type. What do you think sort of was the difference on the day that those 1%ers that got him over the line over the other 2 bulls for that Grand Championship?
I really don't know. Look, the thing that I really admire about that bull is that arse shape in the bull. You got that muscle that goes right down that lower third, and he's pretty unique for that. I think there's not a lot of bulls that are able to carry that muscle so deep down that lower third, have such a big top, but be so clean fronted with that. I think we're fortunate that he really he's peaked right at the right time for us. He looked as good as.
Yeah, yep. Right. And let's move on to Andrew's bulls. Andrew, your 2 bulls, we mentioned before, lot 4, Midnight Special, got junior champion and sold for $10,000. Just run through where he went. And then lot 1, Tiger Tank, passed in but was sold halfway through. I think you had him sold pretty well before the sale ended. Just give us a quick rundown of where those 2 bulls went.
Yeah, so Midnight, he's gone to, pretty good mate, 5 Bears Beef, Andrew and Ali Hall out there at Gunningland. Bear's a frequent visitor here at home for a beer and a barbecue, and he's seen the bull from his infancy and sort of tracked him along and knows the cow and knows the bull, and he's always sort of kept his cards pretty close to his chest and hasn't really said a hell of a lot, but you could tell that he sort of was quite fond of the bull all the way along. And yeah, we also were. And on the day, I think, he was adamant that he was going to go away with that bull on the day, and he did, which we were quite happy about. And yeah, the lot 1 was passed in during the sale, but went to the underbid of Midnight and a return client. It's going to a good Hereford home, and we're pretty proud about that. We sold a bull out there last year and got another one out there again, and we think he's going to go. Tiger Tank's going to go on and do the job that they want out there. They're looking for a bit of softness, a bit of carcass, and that's what we think that bull will do. And yeah, Bear, Andrew Hawley, he's going to send Midnight up to Falls River to do a commercial job. I think I spoke to him today, he's going to collect Midnight just before he goes up to Falls River in the spring. And yeah, he's pretty excited about what he's going to do. He's got a few stud females, looking to put a couple of them with him and see what he can actually do.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, you like I said before, you guys, as far as the sale went, were pretty successful days. In retrospect, we didn't have as good a day, or definitely didn't come home as happy as you guys. On paper, reserve senior champion to Tim's Bull with the Undertaker was pretty exciting, and then second in the President's Shield, I'd have to say, was a fair bit of a shock. I walked out
got around me in that, Lee. So
yeah, well, we walked in. I said to Claire, we need to just be switched on here. We can. I figured with the two champions, I thought Kelly would just go with your team and Vic's team that did win it, the Ironbark Glen team. The three bulls very closely bred, and they looked like full brothers, and they were going to be pretty hard to get around as a team. But I thought we probably had something closer to three bulls that were very similar as well. And Kelly ended up going with Vic's team and going purely on how much the bulls matched, probably instead of how good the bulls were, and left his two champions completely out of the line, which was a bit of a shock, to be honest.
I
But
thought it was fantastic.
after the day you had, I was happy to have a little bit of a chuckle watching you get moved to the bottom of the line. I'm not going to lie.
No, reserve senior champion at Dubbo is no small feat, and there were some pretty good seniors there. You're going around a pretty strong field, like Tim said before. The quality of bulls was pretty good, and yeah, those seniors, a lot of those were hard to get around, and you've come away with a reserve senior with a good bull. Like Kelly Run's obviously seen something in that bull, which we all did, and yeah, he's crowned him reserve senior champions. There was a fair few bulls in that class.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't underestimate it. It was just one of those things. The buyers, I don't know whether they missed him or what the story was, but yeah, he was at Smokey in the sale that I think the buyers could have missed.
Yeah, no, well, he's come home to one of our local clients who's got a few stud heifers that they've brought here, and being out of that Julie cow, and I know how much you love that Julie cow, Quirky.
Yeah, she's horrible.
It's gonna work pretty well. And yeah, he's come back here. He's actually going on Monday out to go with those stud heifers, and then he's going to go over some Simmental Chevrolet cross cows. Yeah, I just think I was pretty disappointed in the fact that we let him go further six, and both my bulls kind of went to clients that just down the road. I'm excited to get my good bulls into my good clients around home, but it's a big expense to head to Dubbo this year for how we finished up, to be honest. Well, congratulations again, boys, for the great results and selling the bulls. I'd love to just have a quick chat, quick discussion about the judge. You did mention a little bit before about Kelly and Teeny's judging, but what you've both thought of the judging as a whole. We might start with the females, just have a quick chat. What did you like? What did you see? How do you think the judging went as far as females? I know we were all getting bulls ready, so it was a bit hard to do both, but I'm sure you both had a bit of a look.
Well, after going around the shed and having a look and sort of seeing the females, to be honest, I couldn't disagree with the way Kelly placed them, too much. I think that Grafflin heifer that got up was probably one of the best females in the shed. The Kieran and Nikki's heifers looked a piece. They were dialed straight in and were on game where they sat. And I think, the better heifer was the junior out of those in my eyes. So I think, he found some really, some females that had so much stretch but still had a little bit of performance about them, and structurally sound females. Obviously there was a female there that stood third in her class that had absolutely phenomenal data on her. She had everything has their little faults, and I think Kelly placed her where she probably needed to be phenotypically, and that kind of thing. But I couldn't complain or argue with the way he placed any of those females.
Yeah, I thought that first class was really strong. I thought the Callaway heifer was, at first look, was probably the standout heifer, and the longer they deliberated, they ended up going for that Cayenne heifer, and, he mentioned in the class it was probably just that little bit more leg structure on the Cayenne heifer. But that Callaway heifer, I'm not the biggest fan of EVVs, but that's a heifer that really suits my type and would have fitted into our program here and would have actually brought the numbers in. But, she went to Scott Lewington. Scott's going to do a great job with her down there, I have no doubt. He's got a pretty good breeding program down there, and I'm sure she'll be in the flush pen in no time, and we'll be seeing some bulls at Wodonga down the track.
Yeah, just to touch on the females, obviously you're getting animals ready. We had a couple of juniors, but sort of going around the sheds, yeah, the standard of females was pretty strong. The structure and the softness in all of the females was quite good. They all were pretty well fronted, and I thought Kelly Runza got the job done on the day. I think he stood the females where they should be stood, and I like the Kyanmar heifer. She was definitely the standout junior champion, and I we're in the same aisle as Graflin, and I was looking at that 23. Well, the 23 heifer for quite some time.
U23.
Yeah, U23. She sort of caught my eye. She had that nice strong front on her, and cleanly fronted with a nice head, and nice width between the hips, and she was a real standout female for mine.
Yeah, I actually thought she was the pick of the heifers. That extra length of udder attachment and that depth of body on that heifer. Other than she kicked me 3 times throughout the show, standing there on the edge of our table having a beer. But she actually come back to home. Tim dropped her here. Graham Williams brought her, and she's up with our show cattle getting ready for Canberra. I've just dropped her in there. Stays on a little bit of
that
feed.
in itself, Lisa, probably a good indictment that Graham Williams has bought that female. Everyone knows that Graham Williams has been in the Hereford game a long time, so that sort of stands up in itself that Graham's taken her home.
Yeah. No, I thought it was quite funny because we contemplated it on buying her, and then obviously with the day we had, we weren't in any mood to talk about bidding, and then when Graham purchased her, I thought it was quite fitting that she come home, so that was quite funny.
Yeah.
Righto, let's quickly just jump into the bulls. Was there any bulls that really took your eye? Obviously, you guys swept the ribbon, so is there any bulls in the shed that you just want to mention or compliment while we're going through that, you really noticed during the few days?
Well, if I was going to pick a bull that was stalled ass to ass to me that I kept looking at every time it came out, lot 11, the Graflin upmarket U40 bull. I thought he was quite a handy bull. I really loved that shape in it that he had, that length of body, really clean structure of that bull, really well marked, great cosmetic dark skin and hair on him. Just, a bull that every time you sort of standing there and he sort of stand up in his beds or something, he just caught your eye. I really admired that bull.
I tend to agree. I don't think I have to say too much. That was a bull. I saw him at Bathurst Show, and he's an Armada Roth. Yeah, he's got a beautiful carcass and was able to lay the fat down and had good feet and that stretchy front, and he ticked a lot of boxes for me as well too.
Yeah, I thought he was the pick of the Graflin string. I thought it was him and the heifer, the Armada heifer, were the best 2 animals they had there. I just loved how strong a spine he was. He was so strong through that spine, and so good through that hip to pin. You said he's an Armada Roth. He was out of a Kilnui Techno cow as well, like that pedigree. Really would have worked well here too. That's probably one of those bulls that you'll look back at, or I'll look back at in a year or two and think that we probably should have had a play there. We've actually AI'd to Roth due in September, and how much techno we've got in our herd and how much I like it. That's probably one of the bulls I let get away. So we're on the same page there, Tim. What about you, Andrew? Did you have any other bulls that you really stood out?
Yeah, I mean, Vic Camilleri's bull that stood first in his class as well was a pretty handy bull. Good structure, good carcass, laid the fat down, had good feet, got around quite well balanced. So that was sort of my picks for the sale.
Yeah. He was that Yarra Richard calf. Looking through the catalogues, that bull seems to be breeding everywhere well, hey? Like, I see Merriweather's got a few in their sale in a couple of weeks, and I've seen a few here and there, and I'm really starting to like them. I love that Vernon Park Panama bull, which he's by. He was a bull that sold way too cheap. I think that was the year after I'm not sure if it's the year after or 2 years. I think it's the year after I brought the Lansfield bull from Glendon Park, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be just buying a second bull straight from the same start. I'll try to do something different. But yeah, I had a fair bit of time for that bull. I loved him. He really stood out with that big patch on his face, I remember. And then, yeah, this Richard bull looks like he's breeding. I think that's somewhere I'm probably going to go in the not too distant future. Or be either getting a bit of Richard semen or finding a Richard son down the track.
Yeah, yeah, obviously it's bull sale season and there's a few studs about and getting a few catalogues in the mail and there's a few standouts of that Richard. Yeah, he seems to be breeding very consistent across a few different studs.
Yeah. I thought another bull that probably stood out a fair bit was Duthie's other little car. We talked about his heifer. I thought his bull was pretty handy too. Hey, that
it was
little
a good
calf.
bull.
Yeah, he was a good soft calf.
Grew to Combine, again Techno, and then the Bennett Revolution on the dam sides. Bulls that I've definitely both used here at Landillo. You've got both them in your small herd, Quirky.
Yeah,
I thought he had a heap of punch and power for how soft and immature he still was.
Yeah, we did look at him out in the yards on the Sunday morning, and he was a quiet sort of bull as well. He loved a bit of a pat. I think Duthie might have spoiled him a little bit. And yeah, he was a beautiful, soft calf, beautifully natured, square set, good bone. Yeah, he was one that now does spring to mind.
Yeah, I think that they're the three bulls that I would have probably picked. So that's quite funny that you sort of picked one each. You mentioned before, Tim, that the quality of the bulls this year, I think, was definitely up on the last 4 or 5 years. I thought there really wasn't a tail that we'd seen in the last few years, and everyone's team was probably a little bit more typey, even amongst themselves. Like Glen Alvey come last year with the one, I think they had the one bull last year, and they turned up with a string this year. String of good bulls, and they did really well as well with the 2 reserves. I was really impressed with the quality from top to bottom. What did you think about that?
Yeah, look, we spoke about it and was going in there with, like you said, probably the best team that I put forward at a sale. And, we had a fair bit of confidence behind ourselves that, these bulls were going to look pretty good in there. And you get down there and by the Sunday afternoon, everyone had all their bulls tied in and you sort of walked around, had a good look and seen what was there. And you just, the nerves started to hit then. You go, well, I've brought the best ones that I can possibly bring and everyone else has done the same. Like, it was a year of everyone just bringing their good bull and having, not just one, but 2, 3, 4 in their team that are quality bulls forward this year. Was one great for the sale, but definitely put me on edge when I thought that I had 2 of the real special ones there that I mightn't stand out as much as I thought I might, or as much as I wanted to stand out. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's just a credit to everyone that goes to that sale for bringing such quality bulls, and everyone's getting better and better, and it just makes us have to be more and more on our game every year. Hang on.
Well, that just about wraps us up for the show side of things, and pretty good cover of the show side. We might just quickly run through the sale. If you want to start with you, Andrew, just what were your initial thoughts of the actual sale itself?
Yeah, obviously going out with lot 1 and not getting a bid, I thought we're off to a pretty bad start here. But yeah, we had lot 2 as well, and he pulled out, and then we're away with lot 3. Little Glen Alvey bull, the junior, he sold, and then we came in with the junior champ and got 10 grand. And the sale kicked on from there. I thought there was a few little dips within the sale where I thought it was sort of going a little bit sideways, to be fair. And then it seemed to pick up again. There'd be a run of 4, 5, 6 good bulls and they'd make good money. And then I think sort of midway through the sale, Timmy's bull came in and Benny Rumbles and sort of hit that 20 grand mark and the sale went on. It wasn't a rip roaring sale, I think it's fair to say, but it was just a rock solid bit of a sale that the clearance wasn't too bad. I think it was 78. Tim Lee, you might correct me. I think it was 78% clearance, $8,500 average, 20 grand top twice, and a lot of bulls in the teens. And yeah, there It was definitely a buyer's market. I mean, there was good bulls there for $6,000. If you went to Dubbo and you couldn't pick up a good bull for $6 or $8 grand, I don't think you were really having a go. So that
Yeah, no, like in the first 10 bulls, there was the 2 bulls that made 10, which was yours, which we spoke about, and then Vic's bull, the lot 6 bull that we all agreed that we liked, and that made 10, and then it was pretty tough from there until we got to Tim's bull. The lot 17 bull made 8, and then Tim's bull made 8,000. He obviously sold his bull. You moved your bull up in the sale and sold in between lot 17 and 18. We had an 8, a 20, and an 8. And then the lot 20 bull we haven't talked about yet, the Calnee Park Uprise U003, which is part of the Glenalvie team. It sold for 18,000. It was probably the bull other than Tim's bull that probably had the most hype the day before the sale. I thought, what did you boys think of him?
Yeah, look, he was a really good bull, just really good complete. And that's, another thing that Kelly was saying all day, just like them really complete bulls, and that structure. They've got that fat cover, that skin and hair type, and bull has got a heap of thickness through him. Really good sound, honest bull. That whole Glenalvie team, as we were talking about it before, just good, strong lineup of bulls and really consistent style of bulls, which was a credit to them guys. But yeah, he was a really interesting bull.
Yeah,
he was a nice balanced bull. He was a rock solid Dubbo bull. He's very structurally correct, had great carcass, great cosmetics. There wasn't a hell of a lot wrong with that bull. And on the day, the buyers, they were also the judges, and that bull made 18 grand, which is what a bull like that should make.
It was probably the highlight of the sale as far as hype. It seemed like quite a few people bid. It stopped pretty fast at 18, but it got to 18 very fast. I think must have been 5 or 6 different people bid at once pretty well. It was definitely the most amount of enthusiasm in the sale, I thought. Right,
Yeah.
and then as we move through the sale catalogue, I think the next bull, probably just to make note and mention, it was the Ranch Sharpshooter, the Remington Sun. Me and Andrew both said that we thought it might have been the top of the sale pre-Dubbo in our previews. Not seeing the bull at all, just going off hype from agents and people getting around. I'll be honest, I don't think it's probably the best bull Greg and Dell have wheeled out, and I've probably seen a few Remingtons about, maybe a little bit in front of him. A bull that's definitely breeding very good, and I actually just got the Bowen catalogue yesterday, and it looks like they've got a real strong line of Remington calves. That Sharpshooter bull sold well, looked pretty good out, and he was still definitely in the top handful of bulls in the shed. I thought he had a heap of bone in him, and he's really a real long bull.
I think he's a bull that you give some time to, he's going to be a completely different bull again. Really structurally sound again, but like you said, that really good bone, had a heap of bone in him, a bull that's going to put some performance back in some females. Really long, big top on him again, just a bull you give a bit of time and maturity to. I think he's just probably just needed a little bit more time for maturity, and he really grow into himself, and he'd probably be a different bull and a different story at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think he's the sort of bull you'll walk out in the paddock in 6 months' time and have a look at him, and he's going to look completely different. He had that good flat bone, he had good cosmetics, he held his head up, a good strong head, but like you say, Tim and Lee, he probably needs a little bit more time, and he's going to look a completely different bull once he really matures into himself.
He looked like one of those bulls that just grows in pieces a little bit. Like, that fella I passed in, that band fella, he's kind of been a little bit like that here at home. He sort of grows in the front and grows from the back. You're like, oh, he looks great, and then he looks out of proportion, then he looks good, then he looks out of proportion. He kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Like maybe he was just in a bit of a growing stage, and probably just didn't quite nail the timing for Dubbo with that bull this year. Right, let's keep moving forward. The next bull probably to note is the lot 40 bull, which was the equal top price with you, Tim. Supple updated. Tummel Elite Son out of a Lindendale Kennet cow. We'll go to you, Andrew. What did you think of this bull?
Yeah, that was probably a bull that on the initial podcast I mentioned would be a smoky in the sale, and I probably overlooked that bull. He was a big, long, stretchy bull, had plenty of front, good, strong head, thick over the top. He stood on good feet and he got around well and he sold well on the day. He's a rock solid bull. I mean, Benny Rumble doesn't turn up to Dubbo with any slouches. He turned up with 3 really good bulls this year, and that was a pick of his bulls, and it showed out. And that bull won his class, and yeah, he was a rock solid bull, and the sale results showed that.
Yeah. Look, he's a bull. I was fortunate enough to see him back in January when I was up there north, and really stood out, really heap of muscle shape. He really softened down from then to now. That you just got that really big stretchy skin on him, a bull that's you can put a lot into, but he looked phenomenal back there in January, and he's just continued growing on, and just really good, honest bull with a heap of muscle shape. Really clean front, and yeah, I actually quite liked him in the beds. I kept going back around there and looking at him quite a few times. I thought he was the bull that may be one of the ones that up there in the ring with me and knock me off the perch. So I was keeping a sharp eye on him the whole time I was there. But yeah, I really admire that bull.
Yep. I know. So that's pretty well covers all the bulls that of note for the sale. Just quickly run through the price. So we had 32 of 43 bulls sold to an average of 8,468. Topped it twice. 7 of the 10 females sold to an average of 5,071. Probably from my perspective, it was a bit of a sale. It was a bit flat all day. I really think that shed's not helping us, to be honest, as a sale. It's just too big, and there's no atmosphere in there at all. The best few Dubbos we've had feel like we were down in that little shed and probably just a bit more confined to an area and just a bit more of a homely feel. I'm not quite sure whether that big shed with 60 or 70 head can create the atmosphere. It does, even with a lot of people there. I actually got through and tried to have a bit of a count there at one stage and counted a couple of hundred people around the ring, but when it spreads out around that shed, it doesn't look that full and doesn't really create much competition for people to really get in and have that second bid. And I kind of felt that's where that sale probably just sat a bit flat, where people could just sit back, be a bit picky and choosy, and the bulls were sort of going for one bid unless they were going for 3 or 4. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, potentially, I think that's a pretty good point. Personally, I do like to see bulls on grass, not concrete. And the AstroTurf that's laid out, some bulls don't like that. They won't walk on it properly. I don't think it's a natural environment to typically, if you're going there to buy a bull, you may see a different bull once you get that out in the paddock. I like to see the bulls on grass. I think Herefords look great on green grass. The shed itself, yeah, it can seem a little bit empty. I know sort of Monday afternoon, and we had a couple of prospective buyers walk in and they sort of asked, was it open? Sort of from midday Saturday, the whole thing's open. Everyone's happy to get the bulls up and stand them and get them out and walk them around. And yeah, that's probably a really good point that may need to look at getting the bulls out on grass, getting them in that other show ring and in that other shed, because the facilities at Dubbo, I think, are quite good, even over at the other little shed. The wash bay is okay for the vendors, and you can get the grandstands out and have a look at the bulls on grass.
Yeah, I think the shed's a great spot. It's a great location. Dubbo is a selling area. It's great for a lot of motels, and we definitely have a good time while we're there for a few days. The commercial hotel really looks after us as a sponsor, but I'm just not sure whether... Well, we need to definitely work a bit harder at creating a bit more atmosphere, whether it's having a separate sale ring set up outside the show ring so it's not so big. And I'm not quite sure. I guess you guys have sold your bulls pretty well, so we might be not so deflated and thinking along those lines as I guess I am in the last couple of days, having a pretty tough sale. But yeah, for me, I'm just thinking whether, just that atmosphere is the one thing that we're sort of lacking with that sale at the moment.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what the answers are for it, and I don't know where it's going to go moving forward and things like that. Yeah, look, the atmosphere is one thing definitely I think that made that sale a little flatter. Just didn't, you didn't even sitting there listening to sitting back listening to the auctioneers and stuff. It just didn't have that excitement feel in there. We sold a bull for 20. Normally I'd be over the moon, and it felt a little flat even after selling that bull. And I don't know, if that was the atmosphere. I haven't sort of had the chance to sit back and think about it. We've been a little bit busy with it, but I'd hate to see it go away from Dubbo. I don't know if it's just the fact that that shed's so goddamn cold and everyone's that cold that there's not any excitement.
Has definitely changed over the years. I mean, Dubbo used to be a bull sale where there was 200 bulls. Obviously now it's 50 or 60 bulls, and that shed's probably not as conducive to that amount of bulls. I mean, 200 bulls in that shed, it's going to be quite impressive. And like you say, Tim, it is a cold shed. It's sort of, you get there at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to get your animals sorted, and it's colder at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning than it is at 6. And it's a weird sort of place like that. And everyone does comment that it's freezing cold. It's the right time of the year to sell bulls. That probably, I think Dubbo is the right place to sell bulls, but that environment probably isn't conducive to that more happy place. Let's say more happy place. People feel comfortable and they might spend a little bit extra or critique the bulls a little bit more or that type of thing.
Yeah. And then the other question I just want to ask, Tim, for your thoughts is, do you think maybe the sales lacking a way? Like I've been a bit of advocate for it, and we're on the committee. And this year, maybe there wasn't the people that there has been the last couple of years either, so maybe it wouldn't have worked. But whether there's an option to, show those cattle on the Monday afternoon and then have that sale at maybe 10 o'clock on the Tuesday, like 8 o'clock's very early to be in that shed showing cattle. And
I love that old style thing where you show one day and you sale the next. And I think there is an opportunity for us to look at that option and have a, later in the afternoon sale. People can travel that day, get to watch the show, and then, then you've got them there in the shed. You've got that atmosphere for that afternoon, and then the people that only want to come to the sale can still come to the sale. You don't have to start quite as early. The sale, give them guys time to get there, that'd help us be able to get over a few little hangovers if we've been out the night before. But, the old dinners and stuff that we used to have there, that's what I remember growing up is, you'd have that dinner the night after judging and how great they were and all the options and stuff that we used to have. That's a nostalgic part of it that I used to remember growing up as a kid and going to them sales and stuff. And I think there's, there may be an opportunity to try and do something. Doesn't have to be at the showgrounds. We can still do the same thing that we do now at the commercial, but just make it a little bit more of a prestige thing. I don't know if that's the option, but the answer to it, but I'd like to see it, give it a try anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think even like I wasn't really in the market for a bull this year, but, you don't really get a chance to see the bulls that won the classes or something that you might have caught your eye in a class if you're there as a vendor as well.
Exactly. So, we're trying to there sell and talk to our clients and try and sell our bulls, and you don't, unless you got someone else there to be able to do that for you, you don't get that opportunity to run around and go and look at a bull if you're interested in a bull. Like Gemma and I, we weren't originally interested in trying to buy anything this sale, and we found something there that we thought was pretty cool and something a bit different. And I would have liked to take the opportunity to be able to have gone and had a look at that Callaway heifer a little harder and went through a bit more. I got a couple of guys to go and do it for me and give me their opinion and that kind of thing. And if we had that night to be able to sit around, and I could have obviously Gemma not being there, I've had the night to talk to her and put a better game plan in place and see where we ended up. We might have acted a little harder and heavier on that heifer, too. Just those little things I think would make a big difference, especially just for the vendors, but also just people coming, giving that a little extra time to see around and talk to people. I think that's one of the biggest important things that we can offer as an agricultural industry. It's just the opportunity for people to get out and talk and get away from the farm and be able to buy a decent product. Get conversation started.
Yeah. I'd like to see, hopefully we can look into that. That was just, a couple of my takeaways from the sale. Do either of you guys have any other takeaways, positive or negative, of the day that you just want to quickly discuss, or happy to move on?
I thought the committee did an exceptional job. Mark Duthie and Nikita, as a vendor, they were really responsive to my emails and what I had to do and what I had to provide and getting the job done. So anyone that's thinking about sort of taking an animal to Dubbo, if you're a first time vendor or haven't been there for a few years, yeah, it was a pretty easy sort of thing to get your bulls entered, get them right. They send out a vendor pack. You know exactly what you've got to do, and you get it done, and they'll work with you as well. Like I say, they were responsive to the emails. You just got to get your bulls prepped, get them there on the day, and see how you go. And no, Lee, you've touched on it before. There's nothing like getting your cattle out into the show ring against other studs and see where you match up.
You guys are pretty happy to say that this year after cleaning up all the broad ribbons amongst you. But
You got
yeah, look,
You
you
got
got
a
to
broad ribbon, Lee.
reserve
That
senior,
one?
and like we said before, that's nothing to sort of be smirked at. I think there's a few blokes in that shed with senior bulls that would have really liked to come away with a senior champion reserve ribbon, particularly against the quality of seniors, like I said. And Tim's bull to stand reserve senior champion to Tim's bull, which, like Tim said, he was a good bull. He was a rock solid bull. So that's nothing to sort of to smirk at.
yeah, no, look, I have to say, from a bull tails perspective, having you guys as my first two guests and then clean sweeping the 3 champion ribbons and grand,
It's
if nothing else,
embarrassing.
it'll give some validation to my podcast concept, hopefully.
Just want to point out one thing that, my prediction was I was the only one who got the prediction right.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tim.
No, you didn't. You didn't, Tim, because there was equal top price. And I thank Ben Rumble for that. And I'll be buying him a bottle of his nicest rum that he's got for equal top price. So you did.
Lee never even
You did,
Lee never
but you,
even
you
mentioned
did, but you
didn't even put me in the category for it.
No, well, I didn't think you had the best ball there, that's for sure. No, I'm just joking. Righto, so just one last question to tidy up that. Got any advice for me? Where you'd like to see bulltails go next? What do you think I should be chasing?
I think what you're doing is great. I think, the more people that can come on board and give previews about their bull sales is such a great thing. I listen to a heap of podcasts, and if someone, has a bull sale out there or coming up and can give us some information about females and, where their bulls are coming and background of their bulls are coming from, I think it's going to be really enjoyable listening. And, I think it'll help anyone's sales. So I think, continue what you're doing is a really good thing.
I agree. I think, interviewing those studs, the representatives of the studs that are going to do on property sales, I think it's going to be a tremendous insight into their program and what bulls they've got to offer. And it's not only Herefords. I think, Lee, you've got a taste to go outside of Herefords, and it's going to be a tremendous insight into all studs and what their programs are about. And I think the other thing for people that may not know, like big name studs, they might not know the personalities behind those studs and their programs. It's going to be a great insight for them that they're going to get to know the people a lot more in depth and see their sense of humour or see the personalities that they are and what they're all about.
Yeah, no, that's definitely my plan with it, and that's where we want to go. I want to try to get into a few different aspects of shows, but the bread and butter will be the preview shows for the on-property sales, and I'd love to do some reviews. We've got a bit of a crew of blokes heading to Brisbane. We're going to try to do a review of Brisbane show. We're actually going to walk through the sheds and do some stall judging and film a show before judging, and then just do a bit of a results review the next day. But where I want to go with this is, for the listener, we can do some on-property sale previews where you can really get a bit of an understanding. Like let it slip now. The next episode's actually going to be Ben Crowley from Tychler, and that'll air in a couple of days. So this should be coming out. We're filming this on the weekend. It's pretty late at night. You can probably see a few short glasses with a bit of dark colouring in them. But we're filming this pretty late on Friday night. Should be listening to it on a Monday. Should be early later on this week that the episode should drop with Ben Crowley. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Ben and just getting some insights on those females. He's got such a strong cow herd there that find out what size are working, and just those questions that you don't have time to ask as a buyer on show day. Hopefully we can turn that into a bit of an episode for the different sales. And like you said, happy to do whatever breed. So if you're listening and you've got a sale coming up and you want to get in contact, please reach out to me. All my contact details are in the show notes below. See if we can gain a bit of traction. It's amazing how many people, we've had a few people from Canada and America message back, and the messages have been fantastic, and the response to the preview shows has been amazing from people from across a lot of breeds. Thank you to everyone that's made contact. Righto, we're going to finish off with our quick fire round. Same rules as before, just the first thing that sort of pops into your head. You can answer first and then followed by Andrew. So first question is, best moment from Dubbo?
Winning grand champion.
Yeah, fair enough. Andrew?
I'm going to go with a weird one, and it's just a little bit of an insight. Glenn Pugh came up to me after the judging and said some quite nice words, and it was pretty humbling from a long-time breeder and someone that supported Dubbo for a long time to come up and actually share those words with me. I was pretty humbled, so that was my biggest moment, best moment,
I overheard
suppose.
that, and he said, I actually overheard that. He said, you should have got grand champion. So it's the same answer.
He did really like Midnight. He said he loved his presence. Yeah, it was quite nice of Glenn, and I've admired his cattle for a long time, and it was really, really nice for him to come up and say that.
Yeah, my favourite moment from Dubbo was definitely the first night at the commercial at about 1 a.m. with a few of the other breeders that aren't on this podcast, and young Will that works for me got the courage to buy a couple of doubles and slip it into them, and watching the Fex the next morning was definitely my highlight of Dubbo. But
that was pretty funny, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Righto. Well, gentlemen, it's been fantastic. Tim, congratulations again on an outstanding day. Grand champion, equal top price. That's the stuff dreams are made of. Just, you could have almost ticked all three off the bucket list with the President's Shield. But anyway, not to be. But congratulations to you and to Gemma, and make sure you give her all our best. Andrew, second Dubbo, as we said, junior champion and 10,000. That's fantastic validation of your breeding program and where you've started. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Like I say, it was a bit of a humbling day. We were hoping for the best, and we probably got better than what we expected. So yeah, we're pretty happy.
And then for our listeners, this conversation pretty well captures what Dubbo was about. We had some pretty outstanding cattle there, competitive results, and good, honest discussion throughout the 3 days of my favourite thing of what makes this industry special. There's some really good competitiveness there, and everyone was having a beer or having a chat over a coffee all week. As I mentioned, we're going to be back with another episode in just a few days. I'm interviewing Ben Crowley from Tyclopole Herefords on their bull sale, previewing the bulls from a few new sires, and excited to chat with him all things Tycler. I'm Lee White, joined by Tim Reed and Andrew Quirk. This has been Bull Tales episode 4. Thanks very much.